Okay, I'm just going to bring Emily in. Okay, guys, thank you for coming to this Pulse community session. Hi, Emily.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
Is my screen the right way or is it the wrong way?
No, you are the wrong way.
Okay.
You're currently that way. So.
Let me adjust it.
There, that's right. There we go.
Cool.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Give them a little bit more time for people to join. But yeah, I will start by saying I'm sure you all know that this session we're going to be discussing the Youth Education Project. Now, you might have seen that marketed as the Public Legal Education Project, but we figured that was a bit too much of a mouthful. And the Youth Education Project is more aligned with our objectives because it's looking to educate young people. So I guess we'll just start with like some quick introductions. So my name's Kat. I am starting the graduate diploma in law in September and looking to go to the criminal bar with a mixed practice, but I haven't quite gotten that far in my decisions yet. So I just finished my undergraduate in history and Spanish. So Emily, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name's Emily Timkey, and I've worked in public policy in the last few years across both the civil service and formerly for the Bar Council. I'm currently doing my bar practice course with a view to practicing at the family bar.
Great. Yeah, so we're kind of going on similar routes to the bar. Grace, who will be joining us a bit later because we don't have the feature to have more than 2 people on a live at one time. She'll talk about a bit what she's doing. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the project, which we've been working quite hard on for the last weeks. So Emily's going to talk more about what we have already done and sort of just the general structure of the project. So I don't know if you want to talk a bit about the kind of topics that we've already discussed.
Yeah, sure. So I might start with just introducing how the project came about, which is essentially I was thinking about my time at university and sort of my early career to date. And I realised when I was at school, human rights wasn't really ever anything that was touched on at my school. And I know that that can be different according to what school you go to and whether they have a specific PHSE curriculum, but I thought it was really important to engage younger people on human rights issues, and that's basically where this project started and how we got going.
Yeah, so obviously you can probably tell by our accents, me and Emily both went to school in the UK, I assume. I actually didn't even ask you.
Yeah, both Kent.
Yeah, both Kent, really close. So at my school, we had things called focus days where we would have entire days dedicated to some kind of PSHE subjects. And I have just a distinct memory of it would almost be a DOS day, like people wouldn't even come in and we just kind of recycle the same old projects. So that's something that this project, the Youth Education Project, can be like really useful for, you know, injecting some learning about human rights into our curriculum.
Yeah, definitely. And for any teachers that are listening, if you have any queries, please do drop us a message because we would be happy to let you know about it all. So we have released 4 packs so far. The first pack we released was on the rule of law, which actually might be something that you're not familiar with if you're not from a law background. It essentially means that nobody is above the law, and we used the current situation in Hong Kong as a case study. The second pack we released was on climate change, and looking at the kind of litigation that's actually being brought across the world by teenagers at the moment, teenagers who are really passionate about the future of the environment and what happens, to so much of an extent that they've actually took that to court. And then the third pack we've released is on immigration human rights in the UK. So we've been looking at things like the hostile environment policy in the UK, and also what it actually means to be an asylum seeker in the UK. There's lots of kind of rumours that are all over the media about asylum seekers in this country, and we've been trying to dispel some of those myths. And our new pack is going to be released in the next few days, where we have been looking at women's rights, particularly the recent legislative changes in Poland, and what's been happening with abortion over there, whereby it's now completely illegal to have an abortion in Poland.
Yeah, so I mean, as you can see, all the topics we cover are really rich and really relevant. So they're good topics that students can really sink their teeth into. So do you want to talk a bit more about sort of the structure of the packs, like what kind of things are involved in them?
Sure. So we kind of have lots of different activities that students can do to learn about these different areas. So there are things like reading activities, where we link to articles, listening activities where we link to interesting videos from news outlets or NGOs or other organisations who are kind of experts in the area. We also have a description activity where you match up the different kind of descriptions with their definition, I guess. And then we have a writing activity at the end. So it could kind of, we look at like different ways that children can maybe present an argument. So whether it's just like your classic for and against, debating, or perhaps writing a letter to an influential politician or person to try and convince them to take a certain action. So I guess it's really kind of practicing advocacy skills at an early age.
Yeah, definitely. There's a huge variety of different activities that you use. It is a good way to shake up a lesson. And another thing that's really important to note is that the packs and the lesson plans are kind of customizable. So I worked as a teacher for a year, and I know that with some classes you don't necessarily want to bring them in and have them discussing straight away. So maybe a writing activity would be more suitable. So you don't have to do the entire lesson plan. I think that's quite important to note, because I think especially with the school days which have been lost due to COVID, the curriculum's quite jam-packed. So it is always an option that you can sort of pick and mix activities, use them for a starter or a finisher. It's really up to you as a teacher how you wish to use the packs to work for yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly how we design the packs, and yeah, I'm really glad you brought up that point. We want them to be used in exactly that way. We really do understand that teachers have a lot to cover in their lessons as it is, and also human rights isn't specifically or necessarily on the curriculum. It might be kind of like that added extra thing that teachers choose to bring into their lessons, which is why it's great that they can just kind of pick and choose exactly what they want to bring in and when, so they don't have to go through the whole pack.
Exactly, like it's more of a supplement to an education rather than us trying to sort of overtake the curriculum of whatever country you're in. So
yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And we're always looking for sort of new ideas of topics to cover, or also any organisations that would be interesting in collaborating on a pack, then yeah, do get in touch.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later, but actually I think it's good to bring it up now as well. On the Human Rights Pulse website, there is a form where you can submit any feedback, ideas, questions. I'll reiterate that at the end as well, but I think it's important that we get it just in case people leave before the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Have any ideas, any bits of inspiration you want to give to us, then please feel free to drop us a message and we'll definitely take that into account.
And I think it's also important to point out that although Kat and I are based in the UK and from the UK, and we are a international organisation, and we do have people all over the world. You'll shortly be meeting Grace, who is our lovely colleague from New Zealand. So yeah, if you have any issues that are kind of relative to your country you think that we need to cover, then yeah, please do get in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Right, is there anything else you'd like to add before I get Grace on?
No, I think that's it. It's been really enjoyable.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed it. So yeah,
it's been really great. Just it's a really I think a really important topic because we didn't learn enough at school, and obviously I'm not sure what it's like in other countries, but the information I've been receiving is that it's kind of the same, that we're...
Yeah, particularly with, I think, some of the more kind of interesting international litigation, it's certainly something you wouldn't necessarily learn until perhaps university level. And I think, you know, it is important to be engaging in these issues earlier. It's not only kind of beneficial for, I guess, humanity in the world, but also,
Yeah.
you know, it's useful if you do want to go into a legal or a policy career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Okay,
Thanks for having me.
no problem. Right, now I've got to try and get Grace in. There we go. Okay, I think Grace should have the request. I'm not sure if you need to leave, Emily. I don't know if...
I will try and see what happens.
Look, I'm trying to... Oh, there, I can remove you. Bye.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? Good, thanks. Well, Grace is extremely dedicated. She's up at 7 a.m. at her time for this meeting. We've kind of been switching who gets up in the early hours, but Grace pulled the short straw this time. So do you want to just give a quick introduction about yourself, just what you're doing, what you're doing?
Cool. So I'm Grace. I'm from New Zealand, currently living in Wellington, and I am a human rights lawyer here in Wellington. I work primarily on historic abuse claims, and our firm also does some prison rights claims as well, so breaches of the Bill of Rights Act, and things like that.
Yeah, so you're already just super involved in human rights, not just with Human Rights Pulse, but in your professional life as well. That's great. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's been really interesting getting involved with this project, having that background as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Emily's already spoken a bit about kind of the structure of the project, and also she's gone over some of the previous topics that we've covered. So I was just wondering if you could give an insight onto future topics that we're looking to cover. Obviously, we don't have them all set out in stone, but just a general idea.
Yeah. So our current plan is, because Human Rights Pulse each month has a theme that they focus a lot of their articles and content that they post on. So we're following along those themes. So we have the right to health coming up in the near future. We will talk about the right to health and accessing healthcare. We might focus on situations such as the Yemen humanitarian crisis, which might be able to touch on and educate youth on what's happening over there. Also, we have LGBTQ rights coming up, and the right to education as well, which I think is a really important one to touch on.
Yeah. I mean, we're just continuing the theme with these really content-rich topics where there's so much to discuss, and they are so important because they're affecting so many people. And one thing that I was thinking about is, I think a lot of people see humanitarian crises and affairs as things that are distant and happening in other countries. But I think the COVID pandemic, I mean, definitely where I live, obviously in New Zealand, you've got all the luck, but it's really driven in the fact that human rights affairs can happen to everyone, and they will happen to everyone if, you know, we don't raise awareness and stop these things from happening. And I'm not saying that that's what our youth education project is going to do, but, you know, I think every little bit of awareness is important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, so should we talk a bit more about the aim of the project, kind of like who we're targeting, what we want, where we want it to go?
Cool. So we're hoping to get it more directly into schools in the future. I think would be something really cool to have going on. I think we are hoping to start in the UK, directly contacting schools there and students as well. But first we would like to see if we can get a bit more feedback from people and like kind of get the project out there a bit wider before we start doing that. I personally would also like to get it into New Zealand schools somehow as well, which would be really cool because, as Emily touched on before, it's a international project. It's not just based in the UK or New Zealand. It's for kids all over the world. Yeah,
I think that's a really important topic. Human Rights Pulse is obviously, we've achieved so much in a short amount of time, but we still are quite a baby organisation, but we're always looking to improve our globalisation. So recently we started taking submissions in Spanish, French, Portuguese and Arabic, maybe some other languages. But that's kind of something that I think that we'll also look to do. Maybe have international lesson plans that can be used in all schools across the world. Those are big goals because we're not quite there yet, but I think that's definitely something that we all want to work towards, because we really are keen on not just keeping this, you know, in English speaking countries, but all across the world.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And I think, with what you and Emily were talking about before as well, about the aims of the project and why we're doing this, I definitely agree. In New Zealand we weren't taught about this in school either. So it is really important to get youth involved with this and make them aware of what's going on in the world that impacts others but also themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, living in England, our country has a huge role in, you know, colonialism and all that. And I think, honestly, when I really scrape my brain and look back to what we learn, I really can't think of anything. And I think our, you know, education system, curriculum is just really lacking. And, you know, I think we all need to do some work to kind of improve that. So hopefully this project will, you know, kickstart and get some human rights affairs and learning injected into our education.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's pretty much all we've got to say. So I'll just sum up. So the Youth Education Project is aimed primarily at students or young people 14 and older. Obviously, because of the nature of the topics we discuss, it potentially isn't suitable for younger students, but that is maybe something that we'll look into in the future as well. So our aims are just to inspire the next generation of human rights leaders, but also just the everyday person. I think everyone needs to have a good understanding of human rights affairs. I think that's really important. So if you want to look at our packs, just head over to the Human Rights Pulse website. So the link's in the bio of our Instagram page. And you can find the Youth Education Project under the Pulse Projects tab. So there you'll find all the topics that we have done so far, and they will also be updated as we create more. On that same page, I'll just reiterate what I said before, there is a section where you can ask questions or you can submit ideas or any feedback you have. So feel free to use that and we'll get back to you and take any project into it. Sorry, any input that you have into account. So my brain's gone, but I'm surprised that I've lasted this long without messing up. But there we go. So yeah, please do get in touch if you have any questions. We would love to hear from you. We're always looking on how to improve it. Yeah, anything else to say? Anything else to add?
Just that this project is, obviously we've just started it and it's really young, so again, to reiterate, any feedback would be incredible, so that we continue making it better. And yeah,
I know I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. I've got, you know, big hopes for it.
Yeah, me.
Great. Well, thank you so much for getting up at this early hour, Grace. I'd get back to bed if I were you, but you're probably busy. So yes, I hope you guys have enjoyed and found this session informative. Again, I'll reiterate, get in touch, give us any feedback and ideas. But thank you so much all for coming. And yeah, see you soon. Bye, Grace.
See you.
Bye.